What's going on, everybody? Tom here with Black Sheep Keto, and welcome to another recipe video just for you subscribers out there. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please consider doing so. Now today we're going to be making a cauliflower pizza crust. Reason being, when you go to the store to buy them, they're $5 or $6 a crust. When you order them in, there's some kind of questionable ingredients in there, and I want to show you guys how easy these are to make. And as a bonus, you can totally freeze them for later use. But before we get into the recipe, I want to let you guys know about something that I just decided to do. If you make any of our recipes, tag us on Instagram at blacksheepketo and use the hashtag blacksheepketo to be featured at the end of every single recipe video. Every week, I'm going to select my favorite post and put it right after the outro rolls. So if that sounds good to you guys, hang on tight and we'll get right into the recipe. Alright everybody, welcome to the recipe. Now first of all, we are going to need 12 ounces of cooked cauliflower. You can use some cauliflower rice, some cauliflower florets, or even a whole cauliflower. The important thing here is just to get 12 ounces of cooked cauliflower. Now I'm feeling particularly lazy today, so this is out. I've already cooked the cauliflower rice, so we're just going to go ahead and chuck those as well. And we're going to be using the cauliflower rice for this video. So cook this according to the bag, and you'll need about 12 ounces of it before we move on. So now that your 12 ounces of cauliflower is processed and cooked, you're going to go ahead and add it to a food processor. And in with that, you're going to add a half a teaspoon of your favorite type of salt. Seal her up and run it on high, occasionally scraping the edges until it becomes a very, very smooth paste. Now once your cauliflower looks kind of like this, where there's pretty much no clumps in it at all, you're ready to move on to the next step. So what I have here is a few sheets of cheesecloth that I've just kind of layered on top of each other. You want to use a few sheets so that the actual cauliflower doesn't squeeze through it. But the objective of this step is to remove all that excess moisture from the cauliflower that'll cause your crust to fall apart. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our cauliflower mash that we have here and transfer it directly onto our cheesecloth. At this point, you're going to want to fold the cheesecloth up and get all that cauliflower towards the base of it like so. And get yourself a bowl and just kind of drain off all that excess water. You can see that stuff leaving pretty quickly. What you're going to want to do is do this a few times to get as much of that liquid out as you can. If the liquid stops coming out, go ahead and just knead the bag a little bit to kind of move the insides out and free up some more of that liquid before squeezing it again. You can see I'm getting a lot more out now. Now this is probably the most annoying step, and trust me, the rest of it's going to get easier, but if you skip this, the finished product is not going to be anywhere near as good, so just make sure you get out as much of this liquid as you possibly can. Now once you're about here and pretty much getting just little drips of water, almost nothing coming out of it, go ahead and open that cheesecloth up on a plate and see how it turned out. You should be aiming for about the consistency of a Play-Doh when you ball it all up. And when you decide to toss it between your hands, it shouldn't suddenly start getting soft and wet. If you've reached that point where it holds together well, you're good. If it starts getting soft and falling apart, then you need to drain more water. At this point, go ahead and just pull off any bits of cauliflower that you can from the inside of the cheesecloth. Most of it should come off relatively easily. And set that aside for now. You can just toss this cauliflower water, unless one of your friends is really into juicing. Alright everybody, we are back here with our trusty food processor, and now it is time to make the crust itself. So obviously we have our ball of cauliflower right here, and the reason there was salt added to that earlier was to help draw some of the moisture out. So you'll notice there is no additional salt. But the other ingredients we're going to be adding is 1.5 ounces of mozzarella cheese, 1 teaspoon of your favorite keto-friendly Italian seasoning, 1 egg, and 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed. So what we're going to do is pile all this back in our food processor. And now we're going to run this on high until it's nice and smooth. You may have to scrape the edges 1 or 2 times. Now that looks pretty good to me, and I should have mentioned this earlier, if you don't have a food processor, a high-speed blender will do the job as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transfer this to a parchment paper lined baking sheet. So now I'm going to show you guys a trick to make a nice uniform pizza crust with this. What I like to do is make a ball with the dough right in the center. You will notice that the dough is a little bit soft, and that's exactly what we're aiming for. Once it's relatively round, grab yourself another sheet of parchment paper and lay it right over the top. Then, get yourself a cutting board, place it right on the top, and give it an even downward pressure. Check it every once in a while, because you're aiming for about between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch thick, and you don't want to go too thin. You can see how this is making a nice, round, uniform dough. I can feel right here I definitely need to go thinner, so I'm going to put it back on and apply more pressure. And voila, remove this parchment paper to reveal your perfect pizza crust. Now you're going to pop this in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 30 minutes. Alright everybody, this pizza has been in the oven for 30 minutes, and as you can see, it is just starting to brown right around the edges, which is perfect. So now we have two options. Do you want to eat it now or freeze it for later? Usually when I make this recipe, I'll do like a triple or a quadruple batch and eat one now and save some for later. But if you're going to freeze it, just go ahead and put them in a freezer bag and stick it in the freezer until you're ready to use it. If you're going to use it now, it's time to top it. So what I have is a little bit of my pizza sauce that I've made in a previous video. It's also on my website if you guys are curious on how to make this. As a note guys, the macros for this recipe are going to be just for the crust because I have no way of knowing what you're going to top it with. So make sure you add your toppings right into the macros that are in the description. So now we got a little bit of sauce on there. We're going to add some cheese. And I do like my pepperoni pizzas, so we're going to go ahead and just toss some pepperonis on here as well. And then I like to put just a little bit more cheese on top of my pepperonis. That way they stay in place a little bit better. Now obviously I am not measuring this right now because it's just for a photo shoot, but if you are tracking macros, make sure you are weighing these ingredients. So since this has not been frozen, I'm going to go ahead and pop it in a broiling oven for 2 to 3 minutes. So just put it on high broil, 2 to 3 minutes, just to melt the toppings on there. If you did freeze this, before you top it, put it back in the oven at 350 degrees for about 8 minutes to get that crust unthawed or unfrozen, and then top it and do the same. And just like that, guys, your pizza is ready to serve. Now, if you use parchment paper like you should have, this stuff should literally just come right off the parchment paper without any issue. And why don't you guys take a look at the finished product right here before we get right into the taste test. Well, now that you guys have seen the recipe, it is time for the taste test. So what I have here is a slice of the pizza that we just made, and of course, I'm gonna taste it. So as you can see, the crust does hold together pretty well, has some good balance to it, and it's not falling apart. So 2 checks there. Now the $1 million question, what does it taste like? Well, you do get a little bit of flavor from the cauliflower. You don't taste any of the flax seeds, so if you guys are worried about that, trust me, you don't taste it. But you really get that Italian seasoning that we threw in there. Beyond that, you really get the toppings that you put on top. So it is a nice neutral crust that complements the pizza, and to be honest guys, it works really well, and it's a lot less calories than making the fathead crust. So if you guys are looking for an alternative to fathead pizza dough, definitely try this cauliflower recipe. As always guys, you can freeze it, do whatever you want with it, and the recipe and macros will be in the description. With that guys, I'm gonna go and close the video. If you like this video, leave it a like. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section. And if you have not subscribed yet, do me a huge favor guys, hit that subscribe button, show some love, and I will see you in the next one. Now hang tight for this week's Spotlight. Now this week's video spotlight goes out to Keto Trucker Jim on Instagram. What he did here is he took my keto donut recipe, completely omitted the glaze, and decided to top it with his favorite keto-friendly chocolate sauce and some whipped cream. Now this is awesome because it is taking a recipe that I created and making it his own in a way that I never would have thought to do. So shout out to you, Keto Trucker Jim. That is an awesome idea. If you guys want to be featured in next week's Keto Creator Spotlight, go ahead and tag any of our recipes that you make, whether they are a variation of it or you made it exactly like the recipe says, on Instagram at blacksheepketo, and use the hashtag blacksheepketo for a chance to be featured at the end of every single recipe video. So with that guys, I will see you in the next one.